If there were a place in the world where you could store and protect the truth, it might be deep in the Rockies, in a field, on a ranch, in a silo, where an American patriot tells you what keeps him awake at night. Now, here is Medal of Honor recipient Drew Dix and words from the Silo.
Welcome, folks, to another episode of Words from the Silo. You know, since the last time we talked, there's a lot happened here. And I don't need to go into it because I think a lot of people have been listening to the news. This program is going to be on a little bit of the background from on the Israel and Iran case situation. And I think it's a long time coming. Everything we put out here is opinion, my opinion, or yours. But I think one thing about it, I think our opinions match up with a lot of the rest of the country and the world, maybe.
Yeah.
So, Brad, let's get into it. Little background on Iran, and if those of you that are my age or in that ballpark probably remember when Iran was a strong ally of the United States, when the Shah was there. Mm-hmm. And we had a really, really powerful relationship militarily, economically, and just with that part of the world. And I remember in the 1970s, Special Forces is actually pretty new then. You know, we got President Kennedy gave us our beret in 1961. I joined the Army in 62, became Special Forces soldier in 67. But in the early 70s and through the 70s until Iran fell to the Ayatollah and the religious faction there, we were sending Special Forces teams, mobile training teams is what we called them in those days, to Iran and as well as other places, but really some concentrated effort in building that relationship. So it was so strong, I think if I recall right, they had 5 brigade-size units, which are, compared to ours, are 4,000 to 5,000 men, but of Special Forces. They call them the Iranian Imperial Special Forces.
And you guys were going and training. Did you have you had personal experience with that?
Let's just say that I know a lot about it.
Okay.
And we were sending teams into the Tehran area and up near the north, and then Chabahar is on the very tip in the south. And that Chabahar was a very primitive place in the 70s. It's a lot different now, I'm sure, because of transportation, but it's 1,000 miles from Tehran to Chabahar, I believe. And the mode of transportation just wasn't the same as it is now. So the bottom line is we're very well entrenched into how the Iranians' military was structured. Okay. Now, they have now the Imperial Guard, which is their, Revolutionary Guard, which is their their main force, their conventional force. But the Quds Force is QUDS, is mirrored much after our Special Forces. Today, the Quds Forces. And if you know the mission of Army Special Forces, those listeners, I'll remind you that we go into other countries and organize, train, equip, and lead sometimes elements to resist a communist
oppressor.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, de oppresso libre. So the Quds forces are doing the same thing now under the leadership, but their focus, think about it, they're heavily involved in Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, and Assad's Syria and other places. So we know how they're operating and how important the Quds force is to the Iranian strategy of influencing their self around that part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Israelis took out the head of the Quds force in one of those attacks recently, they knew that was a target. I mean, they knew the reason for that. And of course, I don't know about the strategy, but it makes sense that they eliminated Hamas and Hezbollah and the Syrian threat and the Houthis before they went into Iran with their bombing campaign. Because even though they're doing a great job, it'd been much harder if Hamas and Hezbollah was able to launch rockets and missiles and a ground force into Israel. So they're gone. I mean, they're pretty much eliminated, or they would be in there now. Guarantee you, they would be pressuring Israel to take some of the heat off of their effort in Iran. So in this program, I think we need to just talk a little bit about it. And it kind of keeps me up at night because I know what the capabilities are of those forces. Now, when right after the Iranians took over the embassy and kicked the Shah out, for a few years.
And what year was that?
It's 1979.
Okay.
A few years after that, I kept thinking, boy, those Iranian special forces that we trained, they are ready to revolt and take the country back. But then when you think about it, the new leadership, the Ayatollah Khomeini then, I'm sure they neutralized a lot of those folks. They couldn't have them with the knowledge and their tactics, their experience, and undermining whatever they were doing. So
you think they eliminated them, or they won them over and switched them?
I think they did both. I know they eliminated some, and they probably won a lot of them over by threats to their family and that sort of thing. It's the terrorists.
Could they make them mercenary too and pay them well?
I think they just moved them off. I don't know how many they kept because once you sign on to that ethos of being a special warfare operator like we encouraged in those days, it's hard to break that.
I see. So
I think they probably just eliminated them or eliminated the threat where they wouldn't have to be looking after them, after themselves and behind their back. But anyway, we've got a serious situation right now, and I'll tell you what, different than past times, Israel has done things like even in Gaza, wiping out Hamas, and in Lebanon, and taking care of the Hezbollah, which was the strongest at one point, and they were the easiest to take away, it seemed like.
Why do you think they were the easiest to take out?
Well, for one reason, they were more conventional, and the Israelis were masters of moving in there and eliminated their will to fight. But anyway, so we got a situation now that the rest of the world, remember back there, Brad, when they were a lot of the United Nations members of the United Nations were criticizing Israel. Hold off, it's the pro-Palestinian group was getting some legs, and you don't hear much about it now.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that there were some great strategy. President Trump gave him 60 days, and he made everybody know. Everybody thought he was just being a braggart and wanting to be a part of a deal maker, and maybe he did. He'd like to have peace, I'm sure, but he let everybody know that he's going to give you 60 days. 61 days, boom, Israel went. And let me tell you, a lot of the aircraft and the hardware they're using, we manufactured, but I don't know anybody that can operate it like they do. They have a lot at stake. They're smart. They're if you want to talk about signing on to the warrior ethos, they've done it. The mission is first, and I don't think they're worried about too many comfort packages of waiting for them when they get back home. They get back home and their comfort is knowing they did a good job and they smacked those aircraft on the ground or dropped those bombs and killed those people that they targeted. Yeah. I don't know how many others they targeted, but it sounds like they got everybody they were looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the leader over there, the Ayatollah Khomeini, ought to be thinking about what he's going to do when he gets up to his afterlife, because I think they're going to get him.
Do you think that's the?
They got to.
That's the main target, right?
They got to. I mean, and right now, the Iranians are in the best position they've ever been in since 1979 to take their country back. They in the 70s, in that time frame, they were a very westernized culture. There's a lot going on over in Tehran and that part of the world, and they were proud. I remember working with a few of them at times, and they made the point to say, we're Persians, we're not Arabs. So
it was that's been 45 years ago.
Yeah,
46 years ago.
Yeah.
So they've been under this other regime for that long, and it's a threat. So the nuclear threat, is that what's? I mean, that's what we read about a lot in the news on this attack. Do they have those nukes like that?
Well, this nuclear threat. When a country tells you they're going to annihilate you, Israel and the United States, we got to believe them. Yeah. I mean, when an enemy gives the situation away and says that they're going to take you over, you got to believe them, because after all, what more evidence would anybody need?
Yeah, I'm going to read you a tweet that just came in from X. Probably not even called a tweet anymore. I don't know. I'm dating myself with Twitter versus X, but it came in on X. Just in, President Trump calls for unconditional surrender from Iran, tells the supreme leader, we know exactly where you're hiding. The actual post by Trump was, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We're not going to take him out. At least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
I think that's pretty well said. First of all, he made it clear we're not going to take him out, but he also made it clear that he could. Don't attack Americans, then the deal's off. So here we are. And I think a lot of folks, we're going to have an issue, a program on partisanship, and that's why it's killing us. But one side has criticized President Trump as an ineffective commander-in-chief. And I believe he's being real clear on one, he doesn't want war. He's made that clear to the rest of the world. But he knows that they know that we're capable of taking care of business if we have to. And so I think right now he is appealing. Those words are to the Iranian people. They're not to the Ayatollah. They're not to the leadership. Hell, the leadership's been changed pretty, recently. It's to the people, and Netanyahu's words recently are to the people. He's done a masterful job telling the Iranian people, "We're not fighting you." And quite frankly, the Iranian people probably, I don't know if there's any evidence that I haven't seen any, that anyone has that the Israelis have brought pressure on Iran or any other country, and where they would give them, Iran, a reason to want to defend themselves from Israel. I don't know. I mean, if you got something, Brad, tell me, or anybody out there that's listening to us, if you got some evidence, aside from some anti-Israel rhetoric, give us some facts. But I haven't seen any.
Right. And speaking to that rhetoric, I mean, we see obviously a lot of protesting and things in this country against Israel and what was happening in Gaza. I mean, I'm sure that's going to ramp up even more now. And we don't know how this is going to all play out. This is very early in this campaign, but what are your feelings? I mean, when you hear what Donald Trump's stance is, and you hear Netanyahu, and how do you think it's going to play out?
Well, I think it's going to play out. Well, first of all, I'm not going to look into the future. Hell, you start predicting the future is like predicting the weather. It's going to prove you wrong. But and I believe on capabilities and vulnerabilities, and our vulnerability is we're completely free, open society, and so someone could protest. And if you remember right, there was a lot of pro-Palestinian protesters directed to how the Israelis are handling the situation in Gaza. But I don't see them. It's not Palestinians' issue now. Maybe they really believed in Palestinians and not just anti-Americans. The rioters in these universities. It's been focused on pro-Palestinian rhetoric and demonstrations, but nothing about Iran. There's not a lot of pro-Iranian. Because what is this? Pro-Iran is the people, but you're against the leadership of Iran.
And is the leadership of Iran, are they considered a terrorist organization or not?
Well, I think they're promoting terrorism.
They're promoting terrorism.
Yeah, they're using through the Quds forces. They're using the surrogates, the Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthis and others. But the rest of the world has probably had enough of that BS. If you think about it, I don't know who anybody's been picking on Iran since 1979.
You do or you don't?
I don't know. No one has been. They've been instigating this stuff, pretty much.
People are other countries afraid of Iran, or just don't see them as a threat?
No, I think they see them as a threat if they have a nuclear weapon, because when you see and I didn't realize this, and I thought I knew a lot what was going on over there. The ballistic missile situation in Iran was far more robust than I thought, and maybe other people thought. I mean, we're talking about thousands of ballistic missiles that can carry 1,000 or more pound payload. And if that was any one of them were armed with a nuclear weapon, what they could do.
What could it do?
Oh, drop a nuclear bomb in the middle of Israel. It's not a very big country. It wouldn't take many to have an impact. No pun intended, but it would do a lot. The problem with nuclear weapons, in my opinion, is we've mentioned this before. The United States has got 6,000 or so. Russia's got somewhere like that. Other countries have a few hundred. Some got 20 or 30 maybe. I don't know how many Pakistan or India have, but they're nuclear capable. It doesn't matter. You can have parity with one or two.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that in when Russia attacked Ukraine and Putin threatened to imply that he had nuclear capability, which we all knew, that he might use them to deter Europe from joining and helping out Ukraine. But I think it bit him in the ass a little bit because he didn't want it either.
Yeah,
He wouldn't win. He can't hardly deal with Ukraine. It's like the United States attacking Kansas. Nothing against Kansas, but we're talking about the majority, a big country going after a smaller state, so to speak, and they can't do it. And here, the other thing is, a few people early on, individuals, some of these brilliant academics were talking about it just because they could, that Russia could attack Poland or one of the other smaller countries. No, they can't deal with what they got in Ukraine. Why would other country even be threatened other than it'd be some problem with their population for a while? But shoot,
so they're showing their hands are full already.
They got a full plate right now, and if they were to go further west, and then Ukraine would just come around.
Does it surprise you that their hands are full? From what you know, where you come from?
Well, I could say no, it doesn't surprise me, but then again, it did a little bit. But every time we found out about Russia after the Soviet Union collapsed, and during the Soviet Union reign, when we came across some of their hardware, some of it was really good, and some of it wasn't worth a damn. Very poor quality, mass-produced, and they were overrated all the time.
So their escalation was blown out of proportion?
Yeah, they're overrated now. They can't deal with this.
Do you feel as though the threat, since you were obviously a working man during the Cold War and all that stuff, and you were well ingrained in operations and things, do you feel the threat of the Cold War at the time versus what's going on now on some different fronts? You feel more uneasy now or more uneasy then?
I'm more uneasy now.
Is that because you're not involved or because you're...
No, Brad, but thanks for the compliment, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
No, I think it's more dangerous now because of the weaponry that's out there. And during the Cold War days, when the special forces were meeting the communist aggression around the world in Africa, Central America, Asia, and all that, as I said before, parachuting in after a pallet load of AK-47s, a few machine guns, and a pallet of hand grenades to make a difference is over. Countries now have rockets and missiles that are readily available. So it makes a pissant country more relevant. It's harder to deal with it because our strategy has been developed on overpowering our enemy, and let's face it, Iran's a good example. That the several thousand missiles that they have can make a big difference. A few years ago, they had the missiles, but they were overshooting them, landing in the ocean, in the desert somewhere. Now they're hitting
targets.
Maybe, I don't know if they're intentionally hitting civilian targets or just can't hit the direct target like the Israelis or we can, because we can knock out a meeting in the third floor, second window of whatever from a aircraft flying Mach 1 or something.
Yeah. So, how many crazies in a regime does it take to deploy the weapons? In other words, it's not just one guy with his hand on the button, where where somebody gets nervous. Oh, he's got the red button. I mean, how many of them have to be cuckoo enough to hit to deploy those weapons?
Well, think about this, Brad, and I've thought about this a lot in the last couple days. In line with the concept that we used to go in, provide a few civilians small arms in order to make a difference, maybe initiate a coup or something against an oppressive regime. But now we look at Iran specifically. We got a population, what are they, 60 million or something? It's a pretty big country. And the people seem to be engaged. It's the leadership that is calling the shots.
Sure.
It's probably not like any other country, but in our country, in a democratic republic, we do have some input from the people. They probably have zero. So to answer your question, it's very critical that we deal with the leadership, and I think the Israelis would be smart in making a regime change, because I think the people would just fall right in there. There's risk of somebody being worse, but that's all relative. As far as the Israelis are concerned, what could be worse than somebody getting up there ranting about death to Israel and as the number 2 Satan, I guess, and we're the number 1? Why wouldn't we believe it?
Yeah. Do you think in World War II, Hitler had people working against him from the inside, thinking he maybe had lost control mentally or something like that? Or do you think he had problems internally to continue what he was doing?
Well, it didn't seem to make a difference until he was beat militarily.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm sure he had some resistance, but you know,
So he was already on the canvas before they started pushing back, maybe.
Yeah, he was. They'd already. I mean, think about this. Now some will misunderstand me here, because every time you say that Hitler was a master, they'll say you're a pro-Hitler. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole concept I hate. But when you think about, and this is what I look at as strategy, what one country, and they didn't have nuclear weapons, they had massive conventional power with the nationalistic pride in the people they developed. They developed that.
Yeah.
And made everybody else to them feel like they were threatening them. So they had unity. You couple that with nuclear power,
yeah.
I think you got something to contend with. And Japan was the same way. They had tremendous conventional capability. The Navy was incredible. Not much in the land army like Europe. Germany was more land-oriented. They had a hell of a Navy and a submarine force. But Japan was an island, so series of islands, so they had the Navy. And they could transfer their military might offshore. But those are countries that had the, whatever their motivations were, they're imperialistic, motivated to take over, or maybe they figured they were vulnerable and they had to move first to preserve their way of life, whatever the reason. It's a long time ago. Right now we have a modern day situation. The only good part about it is I don't think the Iranians have done a good job in developing their people to all hate Americans and Israelis. I don't think they've done a good enough job, because that's where their vulnerability is going to be.
That they don't have the backing.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they haven't risen up. I think, when was that last time there was several 100,000 went to the streets? Was that during Obama's time?
I don't know.
When there was a beginning of an insurrection in Iran, and boy, they put it down fast. I don't think it was pretty.
Okay.
I think they convinced those people. That's why they're not it's not happening right now because they're not sure that we're going to help them.
I see.
The people.
So there's they operate by fear.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Fear of God, Allah, or whatever. There's a fear put in there somewhere, a piece of fear, and that's what they have to develop. And I don't think they've done a good enough job. I think the Iranian people will take over. I think it's a matter of time.
So where's it going to go? What's going to happen?
Again, I'm not predicting the weather but what could
Can you
happen.
predict the Super Bowl? 'Cause I can make a bet now if you have good predictions.
I don't even know who's going to play.
Well,
okay.
pick somebody that can play. That'd be good. I'd take that.
Would that get you some money too?
Yeah, that'd be good if you could predict the two teams that are going to be in the Super Bowl. I could use that information.
Okay, but Brad, I don't know. What I think is going to happen real shortly. It's not going to be. This is not going to drag out for weeks and months.
Do you think that Iran would deploy a nuclear weapon on Israel, like right now?
If they had one?
Yeah. So you don't think they have one yet? That they can?
They might have what we would call maybe a dirty bomb or something. They know enough how to do it. If they hadn't killed all those scientists, Israel's pretty smart about that. I don't know. I don't think they. I think they have the pieces of one, and we've heard that they had a primitive one. I don't know what that means.
That might be worse.
It might be, but like I said, a nuclear weapon is a nuclear weapon, and here's another thing that it's a bit risky. They're dropping these bombs into these facilities, and the bunker buster bomb turns over a bunch of canisters of uranium or whatever. It's going to be radioactive. And so are we going to think that someone nuked them, or we just disrupted the ingredients and made it seem that it's radioactive?
Is that already being said? Have you heard that?
I think the International Atomic Energy Commission has implied that they need to be involved so that doesn't happen. I'm not too sure that those are the best people to have over there, because they let this thing fester for a long time.
Well, here come the next conspiracy theories.
Well, I think, again, I don't believe in conspiracies, but I do believe that bureaucracies can make things worse. And you get a bunch of scientists in there, stirring the pot, saying what if, just so they could have a job or importance. We're not getting what we're paying for. The other thing is what's interesting about Iran and Israel right now, and we already touched on it, is the United Nations, which personally I think is pretty much useless as a body. What do they do? I mean, we got wars everywhere. We got people hating everybody, and the United Nations is just sitting in there feeling important on not just us. I think Trump changed that a little bit, where everyone else is paying their way more, but I don't know. We don't even have the ambassador sitting in there yet. I think that shows you what Trump thinks about the United Nations. Because why wouldn't we have, why wouldn't we have the United Nations helping if they could?
Yeah.
Right now. No, it's pretty well useless. And I think it needs to go away on its own. I don't think the U.S. needs to just cut the ties, because there's some optics there that someone could turn on us, but I think it could die on its own.
Well, I mean, what's the idealistic idea behind it? I mean, what if it was working perfectly? What would it accomplish?
Well, after World War II, they had was the League of Nations and then the United Nations, but the idea was to talk it out. solve this problem, before we go to war. And well, look, we got this veto power of 5 countries, and so okay, you talk it over, but then our potential adversaries, the quote strong countries of the world, could veto anything they want to do. So that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ought to tell us what to do with our military strength or whatever, but I don't think the United Nations would it would be more effective if we could talk it over and then just have some meat that they could grab onto and do. But nobody's listening to them.
Right.
Well, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares what they say? It's just a big chunk of real estate in New York. Just put it somewhere else. I'm not a big fan of the United Nations. Yeah. That's just my opinion. I think there's a lot of people that think the same way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Brad, so you're younger than me, obviously, and so I lived the time when the Shah of Iran was there, and there was a revolution. Because the Shah was, quote, a dictator, quote, king, right? We hear a lot about this king stuff now. And our next episode may be talking about this no kings or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we ought to have a king either. No. I mean, hell, we had a revolution to get rid of a king.
Right, and we elect our president, so I guess I guess he's not a king.
Yeah, he's elected.
So no kings. That's a good slogan.
Yeah, no kings. They come up with these slogans that are, I wouldn't say they're brilliant because it's simple.
Yeah.
And people that don't even know our process are out there waving flags and saying no kings. But some of the flags they're waving, they're pretty much like a king anyway.
Yeah.
Palestinians don't have. They elect their leaders, but it's also Hamas was controlling Palestine.
Sure. I mean, organized crime can take over a problem Hamas is a form of organized crime, right?
Yeah, it's damn sure organized crime. They're all living in like little kingdoms. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they're brilliant. Whoever came up with that no kings thing, it took hold fast.
Yeah.
But because of hell, we all agree. I don't think anybody here would believe that we ought to have a king, except maybe over in the United Kingdom. But that's just ceremonial, pretty much.
Yeah, no powerless king.
Yeah.
So, well, as always, the Center for American Values is sponsoring the show. Thanks for listening today to us. Get your Medal of Honor quotes book. You can buy these books in bulk for your whole team if you're a corporate guy or a corporate gal and you have a team. Great inspirational book, Medal of Honor quotes. It's available online. You can get it at AmericanValueCenter.org. Drew Dix's book, Rescue River City, for our namesake of our show. We have a little flag program at the Center for American Values called Flags at the Center, and Flag Day, funny enough, no kings was on Flag Day, and I guess that happened to be Trump's birthday as well, so it was interesting. There was a no kings protest. There was Trump's birthday, and then, of course, Flags at the Center, which is on Flag Day and the 250th anniversary of the Army, I believe, and Armed Forces. But we flew the flags, and I told our guys, I said, hey, just leave them up till 4th of July. We might just leave them up forever. We got 50 flags flying on the crown of the building, and I actually think that it's a good symbol, and our core value, one of our core values is patriotism, so what better way to display patriotism than the American flag?
Yeah, Brad, I think you did a good thing there. We all try to counter some bad moves, and they took this no kings and turned it around like anti-Trump. And you did a great job by, our building looks a lot nicer when there's 50 flags up there.
I like it.
Any of you that haven't been here need to see it. And we ought to, let's take a good video and put it here on the next show so it shows our building with these flags flying. And if you believe in what we're all about, but you're not able to get out of your comfort zone to do something about it, let us do it for you at the center. Donate to what we do. Want to make it, I need to say this, no directors or anyone or receive any salaries. It's all through volunteers or paid staff. And so every dollar that we get goes to promoting honor, integrity, and patriotism. And right now, patriotism is becoming more and more important. Forget about necessarily America First thing. Every country should be patriotic enough to believe in what their country stands for. And that's why I'm concerned that we got so many illegals coming here claiming asylum because they don't want to deal with their problems in their country, coming here and contributing to ours and diluting our ability to make a good life for those that are here. Go through the process. We welcome people here. Go through the process. Do it right, like so many people we know here that are immigrants. And both Brad and my families have come from, we're immigrants, right? Italians and Irish, and we're proud of that.
Yep.
So anyone out there feel like they want to help us out, give us a chance. And I hope you enjoyed today's program. It was more or less just kind of putting in focus that what this is all about, and that this day and age, because of the lethality of weapons and the dependence on governments, people are more important than ever to get involved with their government. And if to not do that is kind of like tolerating poor behavior, so just remember, tolerance is a character flaw.
Just because no one knows doesn't mean it isn't true.